morning and happy holidays. What a wonderful time of the year. Sorry about that. I had to sing for a second. I'm Brandon Hines.
That was singing?
Of course that was.
That
I'm
was
going out for The Voice. Or wait, there's the new one coming out right now that Sean Puffy Combs and them are going to do.
Yeah, I saw that recently. I was in the airport and I saw a commercial for it.
Yep, it's the holiday seasons. I've been getting that song. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Seal performed it at the Macy's parade, and I was like, man, I was waiting for Seal to just bell it out, but he actually did it to key to the original singer because we've been playing holiday music in the office all day long.
Oh no!
And I heard it a couple times, wow, he nailed it. But when he was singing it, I was so used to Seal going to that next level.
Sure.
I was waiting for him to just do a
bust
Seal
out.
mode.
Yeah.
And he did, and he just kept it right on key. I was like, all right, you did it, you killed it. But happy holidays, everybody. I'm Brandon Hines, and I'm here with Mike Driggers.
Hello, welcome.
And you are with In the Now.
In the now, where everything's in the now.
Yeah, I mean, everything that we do in our life is technically happening in the now. So when we designed this show to help entrepreneurs, business owners, and even startups that are just starting to take off, there's a huge piece, and I've taught this in our training during our Design It course. If you live more in the now and live within your body in that moment, you're going to have things coming to you faster and with less worry and less complication.
Absolutely.
If your body is dwelling on what happened before or what might happen in the future, then you're not actually present in the now completely. And that's not going to help you. So most of our show today is about budgeting and actually taking your company to the next level, what your air game is about. How are you planning for next year? I mean, all of us are looking at it. Some people are making New Year's resolutions right now and already getting a gym membership and hiring a new coach and finding a new mentor and just getting prepared for January.
Yeah, I've sat down recently and started planning out what the next year is going to look like for our, kind of our workshops, the online trainings that I'm producing, books that need to get out, folks that we need to get with, and even just the radio show. I've got some amazing guests coming down the pipeline, and just to, what is 2018 going to be? I think that's the big year for a lot of people, including myself, right? Because we've been doing a lot of prep work up to it, and now it's all in timing to launch, with the new show and things that are going on. And I was just, as I was driving up, this morning, I kind of had a character building moment on the way because I hit some major traffic that I normally don't hit. And, I was thinking, I just got to be in the now and just relax and know that I'll be there in time and everything will work out. And sure enough, everything does. But, you
were here early.
I know. I was even here early thinking that I was going to be late. And, but being in the now then, and just even in creating, next year, what is it, and visualizing, I close my eyes and just visualize, what do I want next year? What do I want to see happen? And what type of success or growth do I want to see? And I just kind of meditated on that and it just brought it into right now and focused on that.
Yeah, that's great. There's a piece of you that has to figure out a game. I call it the air game. And when I first introduced this in our Design It course, everybody was talking about strategies and goals, and I broke it down into two pieces: the air game and the ground game. The air game is your vision. It could be 6 month, 1 year, 2 year. You kind of set that air game up. And that's the game that's floating in your head. It's out there in front of you, and you're putting it together. I'm going to grow my business to this level this year. I'm going to add a new admin. I'm going to bring on someone from Odesk to help out my company. I'm going to hire a marketing company. All the things that you want are included in your air game. And once you visualize that all the way to the final point where you're looking at the date that this is going to happen by. So for me, I try to do them in 6 month increments. So I project 1 year, and then I break the year in half, and then I break it into quarters, and then down to a month, and then down to weekly goals.
Yeah.
And then once I have the weekly goal set, I'll break it down into daily victories. And that's the ground game portion of it. So you visualize the air game. So when people say you're a dreamer or you visualize big things, that's great. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
100%. Keep visualizing that goal you want. Put it out there, but then put a timeline on that big bubble.
Yeah.
Then incrementally do the backstroke and go down each step and swim back through it and say, okay, now how am I going to get there? And that's how goals are really accomplished.
Yeah, the one thing I like about what you said, which I call it, I break everything into the same pattern, but I'm always chunk sizing into what I call 90-day blitzes.
Yep.
So everything in my life is always based on, like, what do I need to accomplish in 90 days? It's good to have a long-term goal, and you should have a vision board and have that up there so you could see it, but re-engineer backwards. Like you said, swim backwards and chunk size it, because even down to the weekly and daily tasks, the thing about that is you can adjust quickly to make sure that you're on path. Like when the astronauts are going to the moon and around it, they're constantly adjusting, because if they're 1% off here, by the time they get to the moon, they're millions and millions of miles off track.
They're on Pluto.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're flying around the ring. And so when you have it into this, where you chunk size it down to, okay, what do we need to do in 90 days? Okay, what do I need to do in monthly, weekly, daily? It's easy to adjust to your goals because life steps in. Once you've set that goal, guaranteed life's going to step in to create havoc and try to get you off course. So you've got to really narrow that down and know what your daily method of operation, I call it DMO, right? What are you doing on a daily basis to accomplish that one game, that in goal, right?
Yeah, because it's very easy to win a day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot easier to win, and in a short period of time, like you're on that success. I actually have a visual chart, and I call it the alligator mouth. And so when I accomplish the 7 things I set out to do for that day that I need to, then I color the little square, and then I move up to the next day if I get that going, and so I have this visual chart on my wall. But if I don't do 7, even if it's 6, I colored the square down, so then it looks like it's going to go down, and there's this line that's either success or failure. I'm starting to failure, so I have a visual that shows me that I'm on track.
Nice. Yeah, because your subconscious anything could be successful for you.
Absolutely.
It doesn't look at chunk sizes. So making that one call that you need to get done, success! All of a sudden, bam, I got that call done, it's over with, and my day is going to be better.
Yeah.
But you can win the day. So once you've got that overall pattern for you, that long-term air game, and then break it down into your chunk size, start celebrating the daily successes. When I was in sales, I came in and said, okay, I'm gonna mentor with some of the top people.
Sure.
But guess what I did to beat them?
What's that?
I worked my butt off on Mondays and on Fridays. Everybody works Tuesday through Thursday. We crank it out. We
Sure.
do really well those days. But I knew if I won on Monday, if I won the branch or the whatever contest I was in Monday morning and worked my butt off throughout the week, and then Friday really closed out hard, I would break records, and I did.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, even Michael Phelps, when he was in the Olympics, he won by just an inch. And for him to get that inch, he was working harder than everybody else. And so when we come back, we've got a special guest that we're going to introduce today, and we'll be talking more about your budget and your time and money. So we'll see you back here soon on In the Now with Mike Driggers and Brandon Heinz.
Welcome back to In the Now. We have a guest speaker on, Pamela Kaplan. Or Kapalad. I'm probably really slandered that last name, so I'll let her introduce herself. Pamela, are you there with us?
Hi, yes.
How are you?
I'm good. You were close. It's Kapalad. Nobody ever gets it.
Kapalad.
And what does Bryan go by? So I was looking at that. Is it dialect?
Oh yeah. Most folks call me Dialect. How you doing?
So Bryan the Dialect Kushner.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us.
Well,
Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, so now so Pamela, you're a certified financial planner and the founder of the financial planning firm called the Brunch and Budget. I love that. So and you work with a lot of folks, but you turned it into like a hip hop you're like the hip hop educator on finance, and so I'm curious to know what that is.
Oh, yeah. There's so much going on. So Brunch and Budget is my one-on-one financial planning firm. So I meet with people one-on-one, and we literally will meet for brunch or lunch or whatever meal of the day it is and we'll have a conversation about your money. I found that money was something that people knew they wanted to talk about, but were always constantly stressed about. And when you add an element that is comforting like food, and you sit down and you break bread with someone, it really changes the nature of the conversation. And so Brunch and Budget as my financial planning business is one aspect of it. And then Dialect and I started working together actually to co-host our weekly podcast.
Which is also called Brunch and Budget.
Also called Brunch and Budget, yes. And that is where the hip-hop element really comes in. So we co-host the podcast, and we also do workshops together.
Yeah, it started out as just a way to promote her business. Being that I'm a musician, I've been an MC and hip-hop educator for about 15 years now. And some of my homies were putting together an online radio station, and they asked her to come on and do a live Brunch and Budget, and liked her so much that the station manager offered her a show.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't want to do a show.
So I came on, I was helping out. The idea at first was it was just to promote her, and I was like the Ed McMahon, just guessing everything. But, I'm an educator, so I started asking some questions and delving a little bit further and putting a little bit of my viewpoint into it. And it's become a broader show where we talk about economics and personal finance and how things affect people on a practical level. And then that led to some of the workshops that we do with kids. Again, I've been a teacher for a long time, and she's been teaching finance for a while now. And we started combining our efforts. And I found that the having the nomenclature and the rules on top of the hip-hop pedagogy that I was using to engage students was really effective.
So you're using hip-hop as a tool to educate then is the principle, right?
Well, it's more that it's hip-hop is the mode of education more so than the tool.
Okay.
The difference is like someone had this great breakdown of the way that you use hip-hop or you can be hip-hop in terms of education, and they are very different in terms of their effectiveness and their output and outcomes. To use hip-hop as a tool would be to like, hey, I made a rap song about the 50 states, and you're going to all learn this rap song about the 50 states. To hip-hop with students would be to say, hey, we're going to learn about the 50 states. I brought a bunch of beats if you want to make a song. I brought a bunch of paper and markers, and I brought old magazines that we can cut up, and I have a lot of material, so let's jam together and figure out the best way that we can learn the 50 states.
Yeah, and so one thing that we found on the finance side is, especially when you're teaching for personal finance to kids and teens, is it feels a little far removed. It feels like, why do I have to learn this right now? What does this even have to do with me or my life? Like, I don't have a checking account. I don't have a job. I don't have a credit card. Right?
I'm not even getting an allowance this week.
Right, exactly. It's like, I don't know. Like, is that even relevant to me right now? And so when you bring in the hip-hop element and you start to talk about identity and habits and really, like, understanding, like, yourself in the greater picture, then that's when we really found that personal finance, we were able to make it relevant for our students.
Yeah, the rules change all the time. We have people coming in asking us to teach kids how to write checks and stuff, and that's not really relevant anymore. But what's important and what remains is the mindset. And that's the thing that we really want to help kids understand is their relationship with money.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you're teaching the rule of 72, right?
Oh, yeah, when your money doubles.
Yeah, that compounding effect kicks in, right? That's one thing in school they never taught. I never learned it until later on in life. I wish I'd known about this.
That's what's outstanding what they're doing right now. And this is why we wanted you on the show today, because if you look at the business owners that we are today, the entrepreneurs that we've become, we had a hard knock life getting there. And a lot of us did come from really hard standards, but what's missing is the mentorship, the apprenticeship, the actual education of the bare basics. Like, I was just talking to one of my buddies who passed the bar 2 years ago, and before that, I have a lot of attorney friends who they never had business 101 at school. They get out of law school and they don't even know what to do. They have doctors graduating that don't even know how to manage their money or open a business. So going back to the basics to the youth, and actually giving them some tools that are going to be relevant. Yes, education is beautiful, but how are you going to apply that knowledge you learned?
Yeah, exactly. I remember a friend of mine says, "What do you mean I don't have money? I still have checks."
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's important. I like how you're doing that, mixing it with hip hop. It makes it fun. It's working with all modalities, right?
Yep.
So audio and visual and creating that experience. So tell me some of the examples of the things that you guys have been doing.
Yeah, well, I'll give one of the a little bit of breakdown of how some practical ways here. Some of the fun stuff that we do before is like when I have kids putting together their cover letter and resume.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these kids have no experience at all.
And they have no idea how to talk about themselves or to talk about their strengths and weaknesses and things like that.
Sure.
So I go into some identity stuff where I basically start out with having them write a simple I am poem.
I am.
And yeah, you like say 4 lines, and I have some prompts about favorite colors,
like what's your superhero,
I
what's
gotcha.
your superpower,
what people love you for, things like that. And they write out the poem. And one next step I like to do to then make it more visual is after that, they don't write their name on the poem, and they pass it to someone else in the room, and they have to draw a picture of them based on who they see.
Yeah.
And they get a little bit of an idea of how their descriptions shape who they are.
Right. And then the next thing is that they practice doing mock interviews with each other with some common interview questions that get asked, and then they get interviewed by me. And so we take them from a progression of like, I'm learning how to talk about myself. I'm learning how to feel confident about talking about myself. And now I'm learning how to actually interview with somebody.
And in this one of the specific things that we're dealing with is verbal communication and eye contact and body language and code switching. So we do a lot of rap exercises with that, where we have kids learning how to perform, learning how to freestyle. And the objective with that is to get them to understand how to communicate, how to look someone in the eye, how to deal with curveballs. And the end goal is that when they have their final interview with Pam, they are able to speak in the manner that makes her comfortable. They're able to ask the right questions. Mm-hmm. They're able to handle things quickly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So it sounds to me that it's more than just financial. It's life in general and preparing for a job, and then you're planning your just how you live your life. That's kind of what I'm hearing from you. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, that's huge.
Well,
I mean,
when we say something is comprehensive, I think we have to change what our understanding is of comprehensive financial capability, and it is these things you call the life stuff.
Yeah, right. I feel like financial planning, so much of it is life planning and really understanding how your finances really support the life that you want to lead at the end of the day, right? Money is just the means and the tool. It's not the end game.
Right. It's the lead in to what you want and how you want your life to be. And I think about this because, like I said, early on in my life, I'm 50 years old right now, and I learned things over the last 20 years that I wish I had learned when I was younger. Like, just a simple thing. One of my coaches that I mentor with, he says, when you save something, let's say it's $100 and you get a savings of $80, you write yourself a check for the difference and put it into the savings. Because you would have bought that normally, right? So, just little principles like that. So I love what you guys are doing and how you make it interactive.
Yeah, when you look at Warren Buffett, one of his quotes he put out was, "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving."
Mm-hmm.
And that was huge. I mean, I shared that with my kids the other day, and they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah. You put your savings away first. You budget that out." Because a lot of business owners that we run across, too, is that they forget to put themselves in the equation.
Yeah, they don't pay themselves first.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're going through life and you're like, oh, my business is successful. Yeah, your business is running, but you're not getting paid. It's that story of the chef that works behind the grill all year long, and at the end of the year, he actually could have made more money working at McDonald's.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So teaching these kids these basic fundamentals, like you come first and you need to put this foundation in. Like even kids now I run across all the day, they'll spend the money as fast as they can get in their hand because they know more is going to come from somewhere. Or they're so afraid that they won't have it again, they'll spend it right then and there to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Pay yourself first is one of the hardest things to get folks to understand. I mean, it was hard for me to really make concrete even when I was practicing it.
Yeah. I mean, we recently went to a conference and they were talking about behavioral finance and behavioral economics. And one of the things that they pointed out that I thought was so interesting is we have so many like visual indicators and visual cues and verbal cues to spend money. And there's so many like social cues to do that, but there's no social cues or visual cues on saving money. And so,
except when we're actually spending money.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I loved when I was looking at your website, I mean, especially for the youth and even business owners at the age we are now, what would you do tomorrow if you knew how to handle your money today?
Be in the now.
Yeah. So I love that. I love the fact that you guys are really digging in with these children, because one of the things when I saw this, I was like, oh, they're teaching the youth, and I love that. But how will our listeners respond to it? Well, guess what? It's time for ground zero for some of you business owners. Some of you business owners are in this world where you just keep thinking things are going to get better. One of the commercials in between the break was me talking about the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting your business to be different all of a sudden without changing or saving or making yourself present in the payroll.
Yeah, I think a lot of, like what you were saying, a lot of the folks out there and the business owners, even though you are working with the youth, which I think is very critical because there's lessons that they need to learn that's not taught in schools. But there's a lot of business owners today that don't even know some of these principles. I've asked business owners if they understand the Rule of 72, and they're what? Right? Or
even looking at their P&L correctly.
Yeah, exactly. Are you paying yourself first and then manage your business from that point, right?
So Pamela and Bryan, right now for our listeners, adults, youth, their children, everything, give me a key point factor before the break. So we're going to bring you back after the break and discuss this more, but what's a key point factor that the most of the youth are just oblivious to?
Well, I think that everybody is oblivious to this thing. And, you're talking about, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over. Well, if you do the same thing over and over again and do this one thing, track it. It's not insanity, it's the scientific method.
Nice.
So the most important thing is tracking what you're doing. And when we can get more into depth after the break.
So tracking what you're doing, keeping accountability. So like everybody, when they come to one of our courses, I always tell them I'm a huge statistics person.
Yeah.
I want to know like conversion ratios, how money's working for me, where's the money going, how did the P&L work, how did it get so high, what was the low? Because if you don't know where you are, then how do you get to the other end of the maze?
Yeah, numbers don't lie, right?
And that's huge. So thank you. So after the break, we'll be back with Pamela and Bryan in the Now radio show at 105.5. Welcome back. So today we have Brunch and Budget with Pamela and Bryan, the dialect Kushner. Welcome back, you guys. I feel like I almost want to announce you like that guy from the boxing matches. Bryan, the dialect Kushner.
I love the sound of that. That sounds great. A lot of my family was boxing. They would appreciate that.
They'd love it. So, what on the tracking, we left to commercial and we were talking about tracking. So why don't you break that down like a little bit more, like for our listeners, like what are some things that they can do to track how they're saving or budgeting or what it is that you were mentioning?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really goes back to what you were saying about, like, if you don't know where you are, then how do you know what direction you need to go in, right?
Sure.
And so I think the most important thing is to really figure out whether you use an online tool like Mint.com or Personal Capital or LearnVest or whatever it is to actually see where your money is going now. That is probably the most important thing to figure out, like, okay, so where am I now? How much am I actually spending on food? How much am I actually spending on shopping? I found across the board that people just really have no idea. They're usually underestimating how much money they're actually spending on a lot of these things. And so when you figure out what that number is, that's all well and good. And if you just leave it that way, then nothing's really going to change. And so really when it comes to tracking, and wanting to make change, it's about figuring out what is that thing that I actually want to change. So if you look at your expenses and you're like, oh my gosh, food, that number's so crazy. I want to cut down on food a little bit, right? That's the only thing you need to track, but you need to check it every single month and come up with habits and come up with sort of habit changes that you want to make to be able to get that food number down to a certain spending target.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the problem with budgeting because you set a budget and you're like, I'm going to spend this much money, and then you spend more than it, and your Mint.com thing comes up and it's red, and you're like, well, what do I do with that? Because you still wanted to buy the thing.
Stop eating dialect.
Right? Yeah, I got to stop buying, or even if it's not food that I wanted to buy, I'm probably not going to stop buying it because I wanted to buy it and I bought it. So then my budget means nothing to me, and then I stop budgeting.
Right. I feel like budgets, usually people come at it from such an arbitrary place, and that's why it's so important to really look at the real numbers and figure out where you are now and work from there. And then that way those spending targets and those budgets that you set are actually meaningful and tied to the things that you actually value.
Yeah, when we work with students, with the organization, it's called Pocket Exchange. When we work with students, we try to help them pick a thing to track at first, because tracking can also be daunting when you look at all the tons of things. We try to keep it to some variable expense. We lock down all of our fixed ones and be like, let's not worry about tracking them right now because they're fixed. And we pick out a variable one that we want to deal with.
Yeah, and I do the same thing with adults at Brunch and Budget. So it's pretty interesting to see a lot of the adults that I work with through Brunch and Budget have the same needs as a lot of the kids that we work with through Pocket Exchange.
Absolutely, because they didn't learn that foundation when they were young.
I didn't.
And just what you said right now, where are you now? But in life in general, and in any of the courses where I'm trying to teach business owners change, they have to elicit the change they want. They have to know what they want to change. So like you said, track what's going wrong. And if it's the food, then you have to track that one piece. And then there has to be something that changes, right? So I want to have this experience, which is saving the money. But how do I have to change to do that? And then that's what that tracking does for them. So what you're saying is something I live by. And you can't even teach a business to grow without getting this one basic fundamental. I call it one thing to win. What's that one thing we're going to change that's going to help you win in your business and in your life? And this applies in different aspects of all the lessons we teach. And for the youth, it's huge. So what you said right now, and I'm just going to repeat it, when you find out that one piece that needs to get under control from your tracking that they're teaching, then you have to make a life change to make it work. Otherwise, you're just looking at it going, like you said, I went over budget, but I bought the food I wanted. Okay, so nothing changes. But if you truly want change and you identify that piece that's wrong, and then you actually look at yourself and say, how do I have to change to have that change? That's when the tracking is going to be more effective for you. Whether you're 7 years old or you're 30 years old or you're 70. My 10-year-old saves money like nobody else, man. He will shop things out, save it. That's not worth that. He's got a good little grasp on it for his age. But this one little trick you're teaching could help him be even better.
Yeah, is there any tools or apps that you know of that helps? Because like me, for my social personality, I start getting lost in the details. Like, yeah, I just want it quick. Tell me what I need to do.
Yeah, so they mentioned Mint.com, which I've used before. And I did that 100% to track my restaurant spending because I go out on a lot of lunch meetings. So Mint.com was one of them. What else is a good tool for our listeners?
I want to do a quick self-plug because when you're saying about your social personality, on brunchandbudget.com, there is a money personality quiz that can help you get an idea of what your relationship is with money in 2 short questions.
Yeah, and a lot of money personalities actually hate Mint. And I think it's partly because there's so much data in there.
It's not Mint's fault.
It's not Mint's fault. Mint is the tool, but they don't tell you what to do with that data that you're looking at. And so I think based on what your money personality is, your social personality, I really like that too. It's really about figuring out like how to make the data meaningful for you. And that's why we say just track one thing.
How to make the whole process work for you.
Yeah. I mean, one of the best pieces of financial advice I ever got is where you spend your money is a representation of what you value.
In other words, you always put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah. A budget should never feel restrictive. It should never feel like a chore. It should feel like something that's leading you more towards spending money on the things you want and spending less on the things that you don't want or don't really care about. And so when you think of categorizing in Mint as a way for you to get closer to the things that you actually value, then that can change your frame of mind and your frame of reference in terms of how to use it as a tool.
Because, the thing about when you talk about life change, you're not going to have life change if it doesn't fit with your values and the things that you want. So when you look at that item that is over budget that you need to change your life, you have to decide, how does this work within my values? And really, we found that when you do the things you want, then you can actually spend more money on the thing you want while still saving more.
Yeah, because you're focused on what you want versus just spending.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
real quick, I want to get you guys a plug out there. How do folks reach out to you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So brunchandbudget.com is the financial planning website, and pocketschange.com with an S, pockets, Pockets, change.com is the hip hop and finance workshops for youth. And then we actually just started a group financial planning.
Starting tonight.
It's starting tonight, actually, a group financial planning platform for people of color that's called Dead Day Job Army, and that's deaddayjobarmy.com. We're also on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram. If you want to see all the delicious food that I eat during brunch, just find me on Instagram.
Yeah.
There you go.
And for all of my stuff, my name is Dialect, spelled with a Y and a K rather than an I and a C from a kid.
DYALEKT.com.
Yeah, and all sorts of socials around that.
Yep.
So thanks for that, and that's awesome. That's a lot of good resources, and you even have a podcast going so people can listen into. I think it's some great advice. What's the one question that we haven't asked that we should have?
Well, this is one thing. To also talk about another place you can find us, we also rock with Prosperity Now and the Race and Wealth podcast. And they are the people, I don't know if you heard the report about the racial wealth gap and the idea that it's going to take over 200 years for the wealth of the average black family to catch up to the wealth of the average white family. And I think the question that would be asked is, how do helping people of color and understanding the race to wealth divide help everyone in the country's finances?
Well, thank you. And your answer would be?
Oh, yeah.
Answer that giant question right now.
Well, it's just like, you know how people say that, like, karma? I don't agree with the way that people talk about karma. People talk about karma like it's a boomerang. Like, if I kick you in the knee, someone's going to kick me in the knee. And it's not that. Karma is that when I make your world worse, well, I live in your world, so I've inherently made my world worse.
Yep.
And in the same way, when we help those who have the least, who are the least advantaged in any situation, it does us better, not just as a society, but does us better personally. I love telling people, shopping at Walmart doesn't actually save you money because your taxes are subsidizing those workers who have to get benefits. So it's literally costing you more on the dollar.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of tricks
so
that you can teach like that.
you think long term.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Go ahead and so right now what you gave us right now was brunchandbudget.com to find out a little bit more about the Brunch and Budget, and then pocketschange.com for the actual stuff that you're doing with the youth, and the other one was deaddayjobarmy.com to get a hold of our guests. So we had Pamela and Bryan, Mr. Dialect, on the call today, and it was a good foundation kickoff. So I want to thank you guys for being on the show today.
No, we
Thank
really
you so
appreciate
much.
it. Your show sounds great.
Awesome. So we're going to go to commercial break here in a little bit. When we get back, we'll be talking more about budgeting, not only your money, but your time. Welcome to the In the Now with Mike Driggers and Brandon Heights. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this radio show. We're live in Sacramento here at 105.5 FM In the Now.
We're also live on Facebook,
Streaming
and we'll be
live.
syndicating this afternoon, then
Yep.
opening up on YouTube.
Yep.
So we're really trying to get this message out to everyone. This show is really built around the concept of the old Zig Ziglar, right?
Yep.
Help as many people get what they need, what they want, and you will have what you need. So we're trying to give as much piece of knowledge, life, everything that we learn, these people that we come across, we're trying to share that with you guys because one little segment could change. Like even today, just tracking that one piece
Instead of
finding
everything.
out. Yeah.
Just focus on one for now. It's so much
I
easier.
don't ever go into my office on Monday and go, I need to conquer all 7 of these problems in these different areas of these businesses. No, I go in and I knock one out at a time.
Right.
And then I look at the next one, I knock that one out. It's the one thing to win challenge, going
Yeah.
after it.
Yeah, so Pamela and Bryan brought some really good value for our listeners that, that whole tracking piece I think is important because I know that I don't track like I should, right? And I know a lot of families and people that don't, but you get a better perspective when you do. And, we're talking about budgeting money, but also time. time's the one commodity that you can never buy back. And so it actually affects your finances. If you're not good at managing your time and the things that you want to do, it has a ripple effect that it actually ends up into your financial life, right? So
yeah, and that's like today, me and Mike go back this afternoon, and we will be going over all the seminars for the next year. And one of the things that I've already done, which I'll be sitting down with my wife over the weekend and kind of looking at it as well, is I've already blocked out weekends that are ideal for family trips and camping, and when the things are going to come out and how we're going to actually go about each one of them. So when I look at that calendar, I actually design my life first, because we're going to always work.
Right.
Me and Mike are never going to get up one morning and go, I'm not working anymore. It'll probably never happen.
No.
I'll be working on my deathbed.
I love what I do, so I know it'll be exactly that all the way to the deathbed.
So some key points for you guys as our listeners is designing your life first. Like, get that calendar out and block out the week, and make sure you put time in there for your family. Make sure you put time in there for your dog, your cat, whatever it is that fills you up. Put that on the calendar.
Yeah, well, especially now, because we're going to be going into 2018,
this is the holidays,
right?
too.
Yeah, you've got to plan your scheduling for shopping. You've got to get all that. But planning next year, I think, is the perfect time right now to start doing that and really, identify when do you want your vacations? When do you want family time? When do you want, even if you don't know, put something there, because once you've put it there, the how will be figured out.
Yeah, and if that time is blocked out, so let's say it's 4th of July next year, and it's the weekend of 4th of July or the weekend before, and it's already just got a block there that says family or says me.
Right.
Then when you start planning other business things to absorb your weekends or your other time, to put them outside of that circle. And it actually starts making things easier. So even in today, they're saying track something, narrow it down, and launch it, and actually track after that one effect. That's what you're doing when you're putting your life first. So,
and that's one of the ways to pay yourself first, right?
Yeah,
So pay yourself
exactly.
with time, right? To have your time. You need your time. You need your family. You got to have that balance in your life, because if you don't, if your life is affected and you're all business, which I used to be all in my business 24/7, that what happens is you get this flat tire. Right, because one side of the wheel of life is not operating at the same level as everything else, and so you start slowing down, and things happen. You get stress, all this stuff. So it's important to really plan out this family time and then work on your business, not inside your business.
yeah, you're absolutely right. I met with a client actually yesterday morning, and they're like, I need my income to go up 15% next year. So I talked about the air game and how to break it down, but I said, what day do you want to start this? Well, January 1st. Okay, so the next pay period, increase your paycheck by 15% and pay yourself. And you have 45 days right now to close it down and find that 15% within your budget. So before you even start making more money, take it out of what you're already spending. My grandfather was always saying this to me. It's not what you make, it's what you don't spend. So when you look at your company, you can find 15% of a pay increase. Because let's just think about it. Let's say you're making 10 grand. That's only 1,500 more.
Yeah.
There's 1,500 miscellaneous missing somewhere, or you need to start increasing your advertising in December so that it can cover your payroll in January. So first and foremost, include yourself in the now. Actually plan out when that pay increase is going to happen, and then start putting it out there. It's like an affirmation. I'm going to make 15% more, and it's starting on this date.
Sure.
Last year, I had to go into a position where I W-2'd myself on each one of the companies for the full salary. Didn't even look for distributions, and it's painful, right? Because now you're taking the money out in the front versus in the rear,
Sure.
and you're taking income away from yourself.
Sure.
But it'll pay off in the end.
Yeah.
So you put it in place, and then watch it create itself into where you wanted it to be at. So just looking at those pieces is like he's saying, Mike is saying, the time is more important than just the actual plan. Plan the time to be there for you to implement new procedures to grow more money. Plan the time to implement time to cut your budget or to track where your budget's going.
Yeah, absolutely. And look to your relationship with money.
Yeah, 100%. We teach the Design It course, and we've plugged it on the show because that's our main core offer that we offer through the Now Academy. And in this course, we teach you how to start with you. What was your why for this business? Why did you go into business? How are you going to make more money or stabilize the money that you have to be reoccurring or to add a new revenue stream. This course is really designed for you to gain your business growth, but more importantly, gain your life.
Yeah, and I think it's also important for those that maybe you don't own the business, but you work in the business, right?
Yeah.
And some folks have budgets and things that they have to start figuring out, right, every quarter, and are they on target, or are they spending too much or whatever? So, I think it's important that you treat the business as an entrepreneur, like think as an entrepreneur, but work as the CEO of a company, and manage not only your time but also your particular department. Are you saving the company? Are you doing things to help the company make more money? What are you doing to help? Because it comes back tenfold in the long run.
Yeah, it's just like Brian said earlier, Mr. Dialect.
Yep.
Is that it's not karma that's working, you're changing the world around you. It's not just this boomerang effect that's happening. When you're that much better in the business you work in or the business you work on, it comes back around. We said it earlier. Zig Ziglar
creates a ripple effect.
Yeah, he coined it. Yeah. If you help enough people get what they want, you will have what you need. And that's kind of what we're trying to tell you here, is that if you really want this in your life, if you want more money, if you want more tracking of your budgeting, break it down into one thing to win. Break it down to one thing that you're going to focus on and conquer that for January. Conquer it right now in December. Conquer it this week. But choose that one piece that's going to change. Each incremental step, the astronaut analogy you used about the moon and then changing that degrees. 1 degree in your finances could ripple effect to your overall year to date. Just 1% per day changed. Just think about that.
That's 365% in a year.
How many of you would like to double your income? 365% quadruple your income.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look at those small changes as huge changes. What we're doing in the show is we're trying to help you with a mindset of little changes make big changes.
Compounded over time ends up into that 365%. If you changed every day 1% in your finances, your life, everything, just focus on 1% growth, and after a year, that's 365%. You're a totally different person than when you started.
Yeah.
So start now.
And just think about that. Let's break it down again and say 1% per month.
Yeah.
Your income goes up 12%. 12% is a good raise.
Yeah.
So start breaking those chunk sizes down. Those of you that like what we're doing and how we're going about this, we want you to go to the Now Academy and click on our courses and just watch some of the testimonials there. Our Design It courses, people are finding ways of falling back in love with their business, finding ways to budget to make their business thrive. But really what our core thing with the show and the courses that we teach, and from Instant Authority to Design It, is design your business to gain your life. Right now, the now that we're in, this holiday season that we're in, embrace everything that you have and play full out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right there. Play full out.
Yeah.
Right? Don't put a toe into the water.
No. Dig in there. Take one thing. Analyze it. Check it up. Look at what the breakdown is. I use that mint.com. And what I realized is that I was always just a little bit over what I should have budgeted when I go out to restaurants, or I ended up going to like a third night of dinner out one week. Why did I do that?
Yeah.
We have
Did
a
you
whole
need to?
fridge. Yeah. And then you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, we just spent over $500 in groceries and we're going out to dinner the next night.
The thing is it's all about convenience, right?
Yeah.
It's easier to not cook dinner than it is to go to just get a pickup of fast food or go to a restaurant.
And you know what? It's easier just to keep working in your business and never look at the P&L.
Yeah, exactly.
But then how hard is it to figure out what went wrong?
Sure.
So going back and checking that piece off is what we're trying to tell you guys.
And once you accomplish it, fine tune it.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing, is you finish one thing and then you go back and fine tune.
Yeah, it's the one thing to win. That was
Right.
taught to me by my mentor, Steve Napolitan. We taught a course, and then one day he just came to him and he said, one thing to win. I was like, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Yeah.
And he's right. You've got to pick one thing to win in every aspect, whether you're launching 2 revenue streams, you're trying to increase your paycheck, you're trying to budget your food, you're trying to change your diet. Don't overwhelm yourself. New Year's resolutions, the holidays, all that stuff. One thing to win.
Yep.
Pick that one thing, chunk size it down. Like Mike said, the whole chunk size, monthly, 90-day goals, pushing towards that limit. Find that one thing, narrow it down, conquer it daily, and go for it.
Yeah, and then once you have that, now go to your next thing.
Yep.
What's the one thing to win? right? You may have a list, but focus on that one thing to win that you need to become a master of. And I've got this quote that I always say: every master was a disaster before they became a master of what they mastered.
Yeah.
Right. And so you don't worry about if you're going to fail or you don't know how, because I know once you've asked and put it out there to do, all the hows will start figuring out. Just be consistent, persistent in what you do. Keep being persistent and tracking, and do that one thing to win.
Because every master was a
It's a
disaster.
disaster.
So going forward, make that happen in your life. From this show forward, I mean, just thinking about what this lady and her friend are doing, her colleague and them, or they're just going for, and they're teaching it at the ground level, the kids, which I love it, because that's where it needed to be taught to all of us.
Yeah.
And some of us have broke through walls, jumped over fences to get to where we are today, and it would have been so much helpful just to have someone stop you for a moment and say, what is it you want?
I think they have to do a money management class in
Yeah.
high school, right? Or even junior high. Start it there and work your way from there. So
thank you for joining us today on In the Now Radio. We had a great time. It's happy holiday season, so stay positive and make sure just to spread the love. Like he said, change the world around you now, not just worry about the karma or the boomerang effect.
Yeah.
He nailed it.
Yeah.
If you change one person's life, it's changing your life too. Thank you. In the Now Radio.
with Mike Driggers and Brandon Heinz. See you.